Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight. I'm Alexis, and I'm joined by David, of course, here for our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. recap, rewatch, commentary, reaction again series. Of course, this is a show for the long-time Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans that want to really just come on here and have a wonderful conversation in regards to the full context of the show at hand, which means full spoilers, even though we're here to talk about the 11th episode of the first season, The Magical Place. Invariably, there will be conversations about literally all plot lines and character arcs in the history of all 7 seasons of this show. This is not necessarily for the first-time viewer, but it is more for the repeat viewer that just wants to come on here and talk about the show. Again, we've got 2 versions of this show. We got this that you're watching here on YouTube with clips from the actual episode, like a reaction, that drops every single Friday. And of course, dropping every single Friday as well on our audio-only podcast feed with the full-length conversation, of which you can pair up the entire episode and then also have our conversation linked up to it. So we've been having a wonderful time here, of course, as always. David and I have been longtime fans of the show. And again, just for people who are just barely catching on here, we thought it was a wonderful time since there were many people who were beginning to reacquaint themselves with this show, whether it be for the first time in a long time or for the first time ever. It's time that this show had a renaissance of sorts, and we only want to help out with that. And of course, we have really been enjoying a lot of the conversation that has been going on in the comment section for all of these reactions that we've been doing, and it just gives me such joy that the show continues to have, to have such a sustainability to itself. The fact that we're 10 plus years since a lot of these episodes have aired, and yet we're still here talking about them. And really, when it comes down to it, there's so much you can say about literally any episode of the show. And I hope that you have enjoyed the conversations that we've been having so far. And the fact that, one conversation that we can have about them is that they kind of represent a lost art. 10 plus years later, we're well into the streaming era, of which all of us can agree is just complete shite with, really movies, like miniseries disguising themselves as if they were television. And then, of course, not being real television with, and they're practically cutting off their potentiality at the knees. And we're left with a whole bunch of blah. And I think, S.H.I.E.L.D. represents a lot of different eras. And usually that involves the Marvel era. But I think it also can be looked at as the last of its breed, in a way, for network television. By the end of the series in 2020, we already, at that point, Disney Plus had launched, and The Mandalorian and a whole bunch of other things that were the new it girls of a whole new era. And for a couple of years there, we thought we had it all, only for in the recent past 2 years for people to realize we're kind of getting gypped here. And yeah, for a lot of reasons. So we try to really cover all kinds of aspects, even as so far as discussing the filmmaking and the individuals themselves who were involved in the process. So lately we've been trying to make sure to shout out the writers and the directors for each of the episodes, and then also just bring up the era involving the time. This is the first episode we're talking about here that actually aired in the year 2014. This was actually, let's just go ahead and get into it real quick, this episode, and then we're going to read off some of the comments from the last one that we did. So this episode is called The Magical Place. It is episode 11 of season 1. This is directed by Kevin Hooks, and it was written by Paul Zybzewski and Brent Fletcher, both of which I believe were involved in previous episodes. And then, of course, our producers here, Jed Whedon, Marissa Tangereau, and, of course, Jeffrey Bell. And this was aired January the 7th, 2014 to 6.63 million viewers. The schedule for 2014 will actually, I think, be mentioned in one of the comments that we're about to read. And just also to give some context here, I want to mention the filming of this, right? So, the filming of this one episode took place from November the 7th to the 18th. That's like 10 days, pretty much. 2003. It took 10 days. They had 10 days to film this episode. And I think that should also just remind you of the schedule, the breakneck pace of which accompanied the schedule of a television broadcast season. As a brief aside, just to quickly button up what I just mentioned a few minutes ago about, the era of television that we have today. A few days ago, there was an update that pissed a lot of us off. And that was the fact that Arcane would be ending with only its second season after being gone for practically 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Invincible, I believe, just concluded its second season, of which I haven't even seen a single second of because it took 1,000 years to get here. Whereas before, shows like that would come back on the regular, on the clock, every single year, as it were. We're just about to begin the second season of House of the Dragon when, honestly, in terms of how much real time has passed, we should be in season 4 at this point. I hate the era of television that we're in right now, and the fact that we're about to watch an episode of TV that took only 10 to 11 days to film, insane.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, for those two specific shows, it is animation, so they do take a while, especially for Arcane, like the level of detail that they had in that show. It is fucking amazing.
That's more understandable, but it's still a long time to wait.
Yeah, it's still a long time. But Bridgerton, it's like second part of the third season just came out, and the creator of the show, or like the showrunner,
hasn't that been around for 5 years?
I feel like it's been longer. But that one, I think the showrunner said that the next season won't come out for like another 2 or 3 years, and it's like, come on. And that the only thing I can give it for that show is that like the set design and its costumes are like big, because it takes place like 1600s or something, I don't know what, but they have like these all big elegant dresses and everything for the actresses. So I can understand taking a while, but still, this isn't normal for shows. You would get them back to back and everything. So yeah, it's getting annoying. And I mean, I bring this up all the time. Percy Jackson, when they started filming the show, the two main characters, Percy and Annabeth, they were in the same height, and then by the end of the first season, the guy playing Percy was like taller than her. Like he literally grew, even though in the show it takes place like within a couple of days, he still grew during filming. And then when the show was coming out, I think he turned 17. I think when he was first announced, he might have been 13, but now he's 17, which is, if you read the books, that's how old he's supposed to be by the end of the book. By the end of the book series, I mean, book 5, and we're still on book 1. So it's kind of getting ridiculous, even though it can be done. I just finished a show called Sweet Tooth. That one, the main kid, I feel like he didn't grow. Like I could probably watch the first episode and the last, and he looks the exact same way. I don't know how they did it, but it can be done.
Well, here's another one for you. Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Whenever that comes back, it's already been 2 years.
Yeah.
It's already been 2+ years since that incredible 4th season, but that feels like a lifetime ago.
Mm-hmm.
And like to see the comparisons of how the actors are going to look like in this final season 5, to what they look like when they debuted before our eyes in 2016. So am I to understand, Stranger Things is going to come out next year, right? Okay, so I think it's going to be next year, if we're lucky. So the next season, by the time that it comes back, it would have been 3 years since the last season. On top of the fact that since it will be in 2025, that will be 9 whole years after the first season. So 9 years to get 5 seasons.
Yeah, that's... What are they doing? I want to know. I mean, we can put in like a whole bunch of different reasons as to why that's happening and all that. Not just because like it's streaming specifically, but it is getting kind of ridiculous because it's weird that it feels like a lifetime trying to finish Stranger Things, but I can name like maybe 50 shows that I finished in my whole life, you know? Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, it shouldn't... Like, thinking about The Last Airbender, this show, specific, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., This Is Us, a whole bunch of other ones, like other cartoon shows that I've seen, like, those are all nostalgic at this point. With Stranger Things, and I mean, I'll probably put in Percy Jackson, like, it shouldn't feel like a lifetime that I'm trying to get like all the content that I can from those series, you know? It really shouldn't be that way.
No. So that was a little rant here on how we've been frustrated by TV lately, so there's that. David, can you go ahead and let's read off some of the comments that we received from last episode?
There's one that we got. Someone commented on episode 5, Girl in the Flower Dress. This was Serenity Forever 89. Shockley's inhuman power is also fiery, but just a bit more explosive than, say, Chan, Scorch, James, Hellfire, and Ghost Rider. And they edited. And of course, Korra's inhuman power is fiery too. I don't know what that comment is for, though.
Let me... Okay. When did Serenity make this comment?
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday? Okay, this is from... Okay, here, I found it here. Okay, so... Alright, so let's see here. Shockley's inhuman power. Do you even know who Shockley is?
No.
Shockley is one of the watchdog, bigot, trash people that works for the Superior in season 4. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that ends up being an inhuman. He ends up being a suicide bomber that ends up being able to walk away. Like his whole thing is like he blows himself up, and then he reforms. And then how they stopped him was they basically put him in a Pokeball. I remember how Fitzsimmons did that. So, and that was the last we saw of that asshole. So Shockley's inhuman power is also fiery, just a bit more. I think we're probably talking about different kinds of fiery powered people in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. mythology, and there have been quite a few. I guess Shockley is considered one of those. Yeah. A bit more explosive than Chan, who was the guy Scorch, basically, in that one. And then James was the Australian inhuman that works for Hive. Yeah. I guess kind of referred to Hellfire. I guess that's the one he sticks with. It's funny because when we see James later on in season 3, one of the names he thinks of giving himself is Scorch. And it's funny because, of course, that's already been used in the show earlier on. And, of course, Ghost Rider. And then Korra's inhuman power is fiery, too. Yeah, Korra is... It's hard to think of Korra at all, because Korra happens at the very end of the show, and by the time we get to Korra, she's the least interesting thing there. I'm looking everywhere else, and I remember so much of everything, because we're at the end of the show. I think she's introduced in the last 3 episodes. I'm more concerned with, like, our final interactions with these characters that we've been here for 7 years with. But yes, I think that's true. I remember... I think Korra does shoot fire beams out of her hands. So, yes. But thank you, Serenity, for that comment. It's a really interesting... And I love discussing the... I guess, yeah, these are in the rogues gallery of different S.H.I.E.L.D. characters. In 7 years, they do build quite a roster. So thank you for the comment, Serenity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then these ones are from episode 9. Silver Sofa said, "Greetings, fellow agents. Always good to see you too. Was glad you mentioned the airing dates, the skewed Nielsen ratings, and DVR numbers. You mentioned the first 9 episodes were aired weekly for 2 months. Sadly, the next following 7 episodes took 4 long months to experience the AOS dance around the Olympics and free themselves of constant studio interference."
You can
4
stop
months?
on that one.
Oh my god.
So, you don't know. You don't know, David, because while you were there, you didn't, I guess... Again, Season 1, and being a fan of the show in Season 1, it's not the same thing as being a fan of it now, obviously. Or even toward the middle or later seasons. When you're a fan of a show in its first season, you're still not really sure where it's going. You're still not really sure how long it's going to last. And so it's kind of hard to say, oh, I love this with just one season. And so, like, keeping up with the show in the best of times and the best of circumstances in its first season can be, you know, a challenge any way you slice it. What they did to this show beginning in January all the way up to April, I mean, it's the equivalent to the fat lady singing. The TV schedule for the show was probably, to me, the single most frustrating experience as someone who was watching week to week. And again, the difference between you and I wasn't watching them first on Hulu or wherever it came on after the fact. A few days after, or the next day. I watched every single episode of this show that I could, but especially at the beginning, as it aired live on TV. And here's the thing. While, yes, the first 10 episodes, basically, the first 9 to 10 episodes, weekly. By the time we got to this episode, all the way up to episode... probably 15. But I think especially episodes 11, 12, and 13, in between them, in between getting these 3 episodes, 4 weeks passed. We were getting 1 episode a month. So let me just tell you right now, since I have it right here in front of me. I did tell you that The Magical Place was aired on January 7th, correct? So, here is where things ended up being... Okay. So, January 7th. The next week, January 14th, we get episode 12. Okay. Episode 13 doesn't happen until February 4th. It's a whole month, basically. Then, so episode 13 aired February 4th. Episode 14 aired March 4th. So it was, yeah. And then, so it came back for 2 weeks, March 4th and then March 11th. Then took another month off, and then didn't come back until April 1st. Okay. So it was just so... largely inconvenient and random how this would occur, right? Why did that happen? Ultimately, I guess you could say, as Silver Surfer mentioned, it was the Olympics. I also suspect, in part, it kind of needed to be that way because they specifically were waiting for the Winter Soldier to come out in theaters. Because they kind of have to, right? For the big reveal.
For sure.
So I think it was both. And I'm thinking, look, if that was the case, in retrospect, what this did to the show, not good. Not good at all. What they probably should have done was just gone on a bigger break, let the Olympics happen as a whole, and then come back after it's done.
Yeah.
Instead of having to be what happened. We'll have 2 episodes here. We'll break for 4, come back with 1, break for 4, come back with 2, break for 4 more weeks. Like, what kind of schedule is that?
Yeah.
And just to also share with you right now, since we're having this larger conversation on, let's see how this affected the ratings. Surprisingly, they held for the most part, but at this point, you can tell you if people came back after this rocky release schedule, man, you're true diehards at that point, right? So the Magical Place I mentioned aired to 6.63 million viewers. Seeds had 6.37. I'm sorry, episode 12 had 6.37. 13 had 6.62. 14 had 5.46. 15 had 5.99. 16 had 5.71. And then episode 17, which was the tie-in, April 8th, 2014. At this point, Winter Soldier had aired in theaters the weekend before, 5.37 million viewers. So, not a significant drop-off in viewers. And I should tell you at this point, if people are watching, they're sure as hell interested in what's going on. That's pretty amazing how it held. But you best believe that it was... You got the impression... if you didn't know any better, you would think it reeked like one of those situations where the network just tries to kill a show. And it's like, what the fuck? You're airing this at the most inconvenient of times. Kind of how Nickelodeon murdered Korra.
Oh my god.
Which, that is legendary in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. That wasn't very good. But S.H.I.E.L.D. survived. So there's that... on that particular comment that we received. In regards to what other... he said that he's glad that we're mentioning the air dates, the skewed Nielsen ratings and DVR numbers. Again, any true diehard fan of the show knows, God, the lengths that we went to defend the supposed popularity of our show, and like, hey... We understand that overnight the ratings aren't very impressive. And at that point, we had gone into 4 seasons, and they were less impressive than those numbers that I just read off to you just then. But like I mentioned, if you go and look at the actual results of how the delayed DVR figures affected the overall number, over 175% increase in the overnight viewers. The CEO of the ABC company herself would mention that stat every single year when the season came up to either renew shows or cancel them basically. So of course, we remember we remember what it was like. It wasn't very fun. So yeah, Go ahead with the next comment, David.
Gary Marshall says, what's not my favorite episode? Well, not my favorite episode. There are so many great moments in this to make it very enjoyable rewatch. The writers are doing a great job of telling a story whilst having both hands tied behind their back, as they were not able to mention the main foe for the season until 3/4 of the way through the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think we gave it a whole lot of compliments this episode.
Yeah, last episode, which I believe was episode 10, the bridge was the first mention of the clairvoyant.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Which is the main villain, as I think Gary Marshall's referring to right there. No, I agree completely. And that's why I feel it should be commended even more how watchable this is. Mm-hmm. When you consider the fact that they're literally waiting for the big bang, which really begins what the show actually is going to be for like such a long time. Next one.
There's a fun prank in Repairs, something that happened a lot, particularly in season 1, where Chloe and Lil put a load of spicy extras to the sandwich that Ward eats, but much to their dismay, Brett Dalton did not even flinch when he eats it.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's funny. I would not appreciate that prank, though.
I wouldn't mind it. Then last one is, as a Whovian since the 70s, it's always fun to see references to Doctor Who and other shows. Another show that did it really well was the TNT show Leverage, where the members of the crew regularly use aliases based on Doctor Who actors and characters. That's funny, actually. That's actually really cool.
No, for sure it is. It's always funny to talk about the context of Doctor Who fans, right? There's always such a carryover between the two. So yeah, we appreciate that, Gary Marshall, I believe, right? Yeah, and oh man, every week I'm like hearing a lot of conversation about the latest Doctor Who episode that I still haven't seen any of the new ones, but I want to know if Gary Marshall, if you've been watching our reactions and our commentary here, we do have some reactions to the what I believe were the 60th anniversary specials. So we had those there. At the moment, we're unfortunately not planning on doing any of the new season's reactions, although I kind of wish that we were, because from what I haven't seen any of the episodes, but I've seen some stuff, and it's tantalizing. It's interesting to see what's going on in those seasons, but I haven't seen them myself, and we don't have the manpower and the time, unfortunately, to do what we're doing here, and then do Who. So it's just kind of how it ended up being what it ended up being, basically. Yeah. But it's okay. We're having fun doing what we're doing right now.
For sure.
Were there any other comments?
Nope, that was the last one.
All right, so we should go ahead and get into our episode here. This is going to be, before we watch this episode here, just to set the staging for it. In my mind, while for sure the 22 episode seasons of the show operate fully as a single broadcast season, what I always think this show has done, I know that season 4 gets the most attention because it's the most obvious, where they split up their 22 episodes into like 3 different like phase pods where they were all like aesthetically different, but they were all building toward the same story. I do think that in looking at the structure of the show, most of the seasons, so seasons 2, 3, and 5 specifically have the formula of they build up to the mid-season, and their mid-season finales really feel like season finales. So this is how the formula was. For seasons 2, 3, and 5, the first 10 episodes, in my mind, kind of exist as like, you could say part 1 of a single season. But it really does feel like a complete season. And then it just picks up with the following storylines. And then, because then with seasons 2, 3, and 5, then the following parts would be 12 episodes, right? The ones that this does not work with, obviously 4, because 4, if you think about it, and Clark Gregg said this himself, that while season 4 is one season, it often feels like 3 different seasons, because Ghost Rider, LMD, and the Framework. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, 6 and 13 are shorter seasons, and so they kind of like, you don't have to even split those up because they're like already self-contained. As far as like how I view that in the context of where we're at right now, you could say that season 11, episode 11, I should say, sorry. This one, episode 11, The Magical Place, it came back. This was the first episode back. So you could say that it's a premiere of a new era of the show. To me, in my mind, I think this episode that we're about to watch really works as a finale to the first wave of this show, which was episodes 1 through 11. I feel like some things come to fruition here that finally has the team really come together. We're going to watch an episode here where they have to find a way to make it work without Coulson to save him. And we're going to see some moments after 11 weeks of having done this that are going to come in their own way, a little bit full circle here. And so to me, this really does feel like a really satisfying conclusion to the vibes, to the feel of this first wave of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because beginning with the next episode, things begin to turn. In not that, it's not a continuation of what's already been going on. It is. I mean to say that things take a more serious turn pretty quickly, and a lot of the happy-go-lucky, lighthearted side adventures, episodes of the week tone that we have already been covering, to me, that kind of like, well, you could say it doesn't officially end until like when Lady Sif shows up, that other side quest, that feels like the last true one. But by that point, we have like maybe 2 that feel a lot like would have happened in the first 10 or 11. But by the time we get to episode like 13, that's the episode where Sky gets shot. Things just take a whole other level, and we're on a different show basically in terms of like how, week to week we're on an episodic approach instead of we're on a serialized approach instead of an episodic approach. And what I mean by that, episodic approach is how the show has been like already, episode to episode, new adventure, not much on the surface anyway that connects any of them. When Sky ends up getting shot, then begins the new version of the show where it's more serialized, where every episode is basically continuing where the other one left off in a straight through line, in a much more obvious, connected through line. So, just to set that up for what, to me anyway, what I consider this episode to be. Do you remember much about this episode, David?
I mean, if I think it's the one that it is, I know. Hold on. If I think it's the one that it is, I know it's the experiment on Coulson, I'm guessing, and trying to get like his memories of like what exactly happened. I remember some moments, and I do remember this one particular moment that I'll probably bring up once we watch it. But other than that, I'll probably think maybe I know 10 to 15 minutes of the episode.
Really doesn't know, does he?
We can never know.
What is Centipede?
Yeah, there was a lot of hype going into this episode because it felt like finally we were going to get all of the answers, and we get some answers, but we still don't get all of the answers yet for what happened. And even when we think we get more of the answers, they're still holding stuff back from us. And I gotta say, look, if you're one of these people who feels like that's like, okay, I'm being strung along way too long here. Okay, fine. I suppose that's fair. I never once felt like, come on already. Let's go ahead and tell me. I want to know already. I was like, I'm interested enough. I'm going to come back this next week. I like you guys. I like seeing you. I don't care.
Rare as it gets.
That's how my approach was.
How'd you get your hands on this, Venture?
That's what I do.
So this is the first appearance, and from what I understand, the only appearance of Mr. Van Chat here. Van Chat is this character that's been talked about at least twice already in previous episodes as an arms dealer of sorts, and why they capture him, I guess. It's interesting because they think on some level he has some kind of information about where Coulson is, although I feel like when they start getting him to talk, Agent Hand, who you will see is also in this episode, is going to use that to basically initiate a whole bunch of raids based on the intel that he gives them. But this is a fun sequence right here first, because you have Warden May immediately charging in, and then, wait, what? Fitzsimmons are in the field? And there's Sky? What's going on here? And then, of course,
Embrace the change.
This time, embrace the change. Fitzsimmons, like, we've never done anything like this before. And, of course, they mean, the dwarves there. And what they mean by that. But that's still more, again, showing a little bit of progress little by little here. They're contributing to a mission. And then, of course, here comes Sky.
Hold up, I gotta do a little complaint here. When they threw that flash grenade, I guess what it was, the lady goes, "Is that a Roomba?" Really? You could have said something better. I mean, you could have.
Yeah.
The shield logo is right there. I mean, it would have been perfectly fine if they were all just like, "Oh my gosh," and then the flash goes off.
That's funny.
Yeah, just a little complaint there, but whatever.
Mr. Van Chat?
We were hoping you could help us find a friend.
Also, yeah, the sequence was cool. Like, you know,
Yes,
it's basically
I
showing
love
you,
that,
like,
yeah.
we're back.
Yes, we're back. We're back. And again, I think Saffron Burrows, that's the actress that plays Victoria Hand right there. I think she's great. I do like to think of an alternate reality where they kept that character around, because I really liked her and her whole vibe and everything. And even the line, how she delivered it, we were hoping you could help us find a friend. Love it. Because again, like, she is mostly antagonistic toward our S.H.I.E.L.D. agents here, and I feel like the writers do that to make us doubt her, right? And her, what her intentions really are here. And we even see right now in Fitz's comment how much, you know, they don't trust her themselves. But we also got moments like what we just saw in the beginning where she said, we were hoping you could help us find a friend. She's not the kind of person that's going to show it, like May. Even worse than May, probably. But I've always felt, based on those small moments, that she does care. She is a good person. She just won't show you.
Yeah.
And she's a hard ass.
All this protocol crap doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is Coulson.
Well, all this protocol crap matters
So-
to me.
Higher ups like her are aware that Coulson brought her on. And even Fury himself told Coulson in episode 2, she's a risk. They're deeply, deeply distrustful of Skye. And even the fact that she's tagged because of security reasons, technically, if you try to look at it from Hand's perspective,
Will this girl be of any use to us on this plane?
No.
by the way, what May just did,
Yeah.
oh man, I was pissed. I'm like, because she was being such a mean girl the last 2 episodes to her especially, and then this.
And I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like she planned that so that Skye can do whatever she want, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That was intentional.
Yeah, even
but
like
at the
remembering that,
moment,
though-
did you know that at the moment though? Did you think that was the point?
No,
Because it felt like that. No, it didn't feel like that at all.
No, even like we like watching it and like I realized that as soon as she said it, it still stings. It's like, oh, why would you could have done it in secret? I don't know.
Yeah, it was like a what the fuck, May? And then of course how immediately Fitzsimmons and Ward jump into action. Because they know she's gonna find him. She has a better chance of finding him than anybody else. But what I was saying about Agent Hand is, if you try and look at it from her point of view, her throwing Skye off the bus is kind of understandable. Especially when you think, how she thinks anyway, that she was the one that shot Sitwell. Which is funny to me because we never saw how that was resolved off screen. Like how, like, okay, Sitwell got shot. They know that somebody on their team did it.
Hang on.
We have something for you.
You made me a sandwich.
Yes, it is that.
And there were seemingly no ramifications or consequences because of that. However, I guess it's become, even though Sitwell knows it wasn't Skye that shot him, I guess he didn't say who it was. Because he knows who Gemma Simmons is. And then Hand is like, she's painting with a broad brush. Because Skye has a history of like, kind of being a criminal, and she betrayed them. She's like, oh, obviously this is the one that shot Sitwell. So when you think about all of that, Hand doing what she did, considering who Hand is, makes perfect sense. However, us, the audience, and the team knowing who Skye is, we know if they had just let Skye do what she needed to do, it would have been that much faster. But again, you are right. While it stings in the moment, May, kind of the smartest person in the room, really. It was like, she saw it immediately. And the way that Hand phrased it, will she be of any use to us or any help to us on this plane? No. The way she said it too, oh my God.
Your heart was torn to pieces. What the clairvoyant can't see is what happened after.
See, what I like about this is that at this moment, we don't know, obviously, anything. So, to us, we legitimately are under the impression that this clairvoyant is an actual clairvoyant and he has these powers because so far he's been able to know things that how could you possibly know? You know, so I think the show, to me anyway, always did a good job of making us feel like this clairvoyant was an actual psychic. And because they built that up so well, this right here, which ultimately was a big red flag, like how could the psychic not see what happened to Coulson if he got everything else right? But to me, that's what makes this work so well. Because they built it up so well that this is a psychic, him not being able to see what they did to Coulson only makes what S.H.I.E.L.D. did to him that much more shady and suspicious. That how could a psychic not figure out or know? Like that to me is like bringing to attention the lengths to which S.H.I.E.L.D. went to cover up what they did to Coulson. Thus, to me anyway, making the mystery that much more mysterious.
No, sweetie, listen to me. It was a private jet. Of course there was Wi-Fi.
I hope others felt that same way. I don't know. That may have been just me. By the way, what Sky did just right now, look, this is, again, this whole episode right now is proving to us her skill set, her value. The girl was just able to walk up and own the place, right? And she just got in a car and left, convincingly so. I mean, could you do that? Could you pull that off? Like, look at her.
Damn it.
She's always been resourceful without S.H.I.E.L.D. And this is a reminder to us of what that looks like. So people not liking her or people thinking that she was useless, I have to genuinely ask, do you think all there is to being an agent is just being able to fight? Which, by the way, if that's what you think, give it a season. Give it a season and that'll change. But look, even this, I would never have, would I have figured that out? No. I wouldn't have been brave enough to do it, actually, like to go through with that.
Roadside assistance. We see you've had an accident.
Yeah. Can you send somebody to tow me back to my house?
That counts as blood, right?
Yeah.
Remember, we got to do our weekly blood check. And by the way, for those of you who are not aware of what we mean, why are we pointing out that there's blood on the show? Because it's a running thing that in the MCU, Marvel movies, you don't see any blood, like, ever.
And also,
yet here, yes.
Everyone making fun of the comment of Moon Knight being the bloodiest show that they
oh,
had.
Yeah,
it's just like,
that's right.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That's right. Kevin Feige did say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the bloodiest show they ever made, and there wasn't any blood. Go Coulson.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Actually, did you ever see those, like, I think they might have called it, like, Marvel shorts or something, like, in the beginning of the MCU? Mm-hmm. There was one where he was, like, it was right before he went to, like, Thor's hammer.
Yes.
And everything. But, like, he kicked ass in that moment. It was cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm aware of it.
Nice here. The children are always playing. Yet never make a sound.
I don't think Coulson kicks as much ass these first 2 seasons, but beginning in season 3, they definitely level him back up to where he's constantly in combat. Especially because in season 3, he has his new robotic arm, and he uses it a lot in combat. Then he has his shield. So, yeah, seasons 3 and 4 definitely level him up in that aspect. Especially, I think, when he goes after Ward to kill him, he's really, like, really badass. And I'm officially bringing that word back to the Red Spotlight. I remember years ago I banned it. Enough time has passed. We're going to bring it back.
Which word?
Badass.
Hi.
Was it damaged?
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 officers waiting at his home ready to take a statement. How long do you think it'll take Mr. Rathman to get there?
Not long at all, apparently. I love this bit right here. It can come off so badly, but I think she made it work, and I laughed so hard. This right here. I don't even remember.
You're in a lot of trouble, Mr. Rathman.
Who the hell are you?
Agent Melinda May with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh my god. I remember her using that name.
And the jacket and everything. Which, by the way, shows you, despite the bitch that she's been to Sky, there's a bit of her that Sky likes and looks up to. So,
Director Fury, Commander Hill, everyone wants an update. Frankly, I don't understand it. No single agent is that important.
again, you have to remember that Han doesn't know Coulson very well. I think they just met each other back at the hub. And to, like, of course, she wouldn't know how important it is, but I love that we got that scene just to remind us Coulson is pivotal. Like, without him, and they say this only in the movie, and they forget about it after the fact, but in the Avengers, if not for him, who was there to avenge? For the team to finally come together. Of course, it's funny how Coulson is never brought up ever again in the movies, and you have to wonder if that was intentional beef going on there between Kevin Feige and everybody else in TV land, apparently. But as far as the context of that first movie, Coulson is pivotal.
He's being difficult.
He's being beaten.
Into submission. The clairvoyant requested it.
Would you have liked for him to be in Endgame? Or would you rather just have a mention instead?
Me?
Yeah.
I think we're both on the same page that we want that moment with the helicarriers being treated as the Eagles and coming in, and then him having a scene to just like, hey guys, I'm back, and that was it. That's all I needed. I think to me, you didn't need to have a moment where the Avengers like, whoa, you're alive? What? I don't think you need that. You can just find an off-screen excuse for that to happen. Or maybe film something for S.H.I.E.L.D. But that that was never going to happen.
The clairvoyant would like to speak to you.
I think they could have edited it though. It could have been just like a little quick like reaction of what the fuck.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, that's from
Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you happy, MCU fans? You got a connection. Yay!
Wait, why did he kill him?
Because he was not doing a good job. He wasn't getting Coulson to talk. So Garrett was like, gotta kill him. Move on to Reyna.
That's how Sky works best. You don't have to assume the worst of me.
I feel like that's not just made saying that to him, but I feel like she's like breaking the fourth wall and saying that to us. You don't always have to assume the worst of me.
Yeah.
Fair, but also like you've been kind of not so friendly, especially to her in recent weeks. So it's like, that's why I think it worked really well. And I think it was kind of believable, honestly, that she would just be like, fuck you, get off the plane.
This is cool, by the way.
Yes.
I love that they added this. Like the jets thing moving and all that. Like, it's awesome. It just looks awesome.
No, it looks awesome too, but it's also part of May's strength, right? I feel like every scene where we show how good of a pilot May is, top notch. I love it.
S.H.I.E.L.D. Protocol 6 Alpha Victor.
That's clever. I'm sorry, that's clever.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanted to see a badge, there it is.
PD security, don't move! That's it, nice and easy. Keep your hands running.
That was such ADR.
Yes. Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. But right there shows you how far she's come herself physically. The things that she's put into use, what she's learned on the plane.
The clairvoyant gives us guidance, formulas.
For what?
The changing world.
Which is what she's interested in. The changing world. She knows of the stories that she was raised on by her grandmother. And she's here because she really believes that Garrett is a clairvoyant. She wants to know what her destiny is, ultimately being the powered to inherit the powers of the stories that she was raised on. That's what she's here for. What Ruth Negga as Reyna here does, oh God, the way she's like, yes, she's manipulating him, and he understands that she's manipulating him. But he's also, the way that he looks, like she's correct. He's curious. He wants those answers too.
Love.
The cellist right here. Audrey Nathanson, I believe.
And she did love you, Agent Coulson.
Which I love that they do bring up in this show too. It was such a throwaway line in the movies, honestly.
Yes.
That's like, yeah, I have a cellist or something like that.
And we do see her.
Didn't even have a chance to say goodbye.
I couldn't. I can't.
She cried for days after S.H.I.E.L.D. told her you died. They shattered her heart with a lie. And now they're lying to you.
No. No, they're not.
I know you don't want
He's doing such a good job, man. Dude, I love
Right?
it. Oh my god.
makes you wonder what happened in Tahiti.
It's a magical place.
This is the moment that I specifically remember in this episode. Just him breaking apart, and then they'll.
Yeah.
Why do I keep saying that? Oh my god.
Turn it on.
You don't have to say it. That was
That's
an
great.
amazing scene. That was an amazing scene right there. Both of those two, really good job. Also, the music there by Bear McCreary, good placement as well.
See if Coulson's there. You backed my decision to kick Sky off the plane. Seems like it worked out. Seems like you played me.
Look, this isn't personal, but I am
I bet it worked.
Yep. Oh man, that was getting close to being a real cat fight right there.
What makes you so sure this machine will even work?
It worked on me.
Don't forget what this is. This feels like an something that wasn't so important, but right here, Raina reveals to Coulson that she herself had been in the memory machine. I don't know for what reason, but she was made to be in the memory machine herself. And that's something Coulson doesn't tell anyone. And that's important because in a few episodes, Garrett slips, mentions that, and that's how Coulson finally figures out that it's been Garrett all along. Because how could he possibly have known that if not for him being the clairvoyant? So that little detail right there that was just kind of skipped over.
Director Fury himself.
This is actually kind of creepy because when you realize what that vision actually is, it's not human hands on the back of his head.
Yeah, I remember what it is.
Here we have the debut of one of the best tracks Bear McCreary did on the show. So haunting. It's used for, you could say, GH23 theme, or because it's kind of related to the Kree and the Kree symbols and the alien writing, all of that for this. I love this piece of music right here, which we just saw right there, a piece of the alien writing.
I want to know how.
My men and I are taking her straight to headquarters for questioning. We'll be in touch.
Agent Hand, thank you for everything.
This is what I mean by this feeling like a real season finale here, because here we have the team for the first time, not the first time, but like it feels for the first time anyway, like, wow, they've come together, but more than that, they've come a long way from where we were just a few episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
We already here, we can see the love that they have for each other, and what they've been through is just continuing to bring them closer together, and us as the audience feel like we're a part of that as well. And at this point, and this here tops it off, of course. Here's the icing on the cake.
Disengage bracelet.
Are you kidding me?
Thought you'd like that.
I heard what you were saying.
It wasn't real.
It was really perceptive there of Sky. I'm not sure if I caught that before, but like, she doesn't know. obviously what happened to Coulson a few episodes ago, that, you know, they refused to give him answers. So she is such a perceptive person to be able to catch that. Did you learn anything? But anyway, like this, what happened with Sky just there is the closest to her like feeling like she feels like for legit a SHIELD agent now. Even though not officially, but her disengaging the bracelet is like a step toward graduation, basically. This also came out of nowhere too. It's like, what? Yeah. He's alive? What? Another one? It's like, oh, and then of course when, well, you'll see right now, it's like, oh shit, this is not going to end up very well at all. Also, what wasn't mentioned there, obviously, because I don't know, I think they don't know exactly the full details just yet, but like, when they bring back Coulson, they obviously know he recommended to shut down the program. He was in charge of the GH325 program, the Tahiti program. Anyway, he had recommended them to shut it down because the patients had been going crazy and they had to use memory replacement to get them to be okay. Because the alien biology was not mixing, it was imprinting their own memories, the memory of that Cree being into the Tahiti patients. And that when Coulson died, of course, at that point, that program had been shut down, but Fury did not shut it down. He had it kept away for a rainy day, which ended up being Coulson dying. Well, so they brought it back.
Did they say he brought it back in case they needed to bring an Avenger back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's cool. And of course, Fury says exactly because he considered Coulson just that important. Mm-hmm. But because they already knew, they basically already knew what was going to happen. If they used the GH325 drug to bring back Coulson, he would end up going crazy because of the memories of that being, that Kree, going into his head. So at that point, they give him the GH225, it healed the tissue, and then immediately, my understanding is, after, well, maybe not immediately, maybe he did go crazy. And then like, well, okay, well, now we have to do the memory replacement. And that's what happened. It took a couple of operations, it looks like, for it to happen. And it had gotten so bad that he had lost the will to live. So it was far more traumatic than just dying. It's being brought back, going fucking insane, and then them going in there and trying to rewrite that. And again, what was more difficult about his ordeal was that with the other agents, they rewrote their entire lives completely, and so they have no memory of anything before the fact of dying. Coulson does. And I think it was more, my understanding and what is implied to me is it was far more difficult to just replace the small details instead of just completely rebooting the brain. And that is why it took a long time. That's never really explained, I don't think, in so many words on the show. That's just my understanding based on what I know happens later on. So, but again, we don't know the full context of that really here. And so, but even with that not necessarily being revealed, I think it still makes for tense and thrilling sequences. I remember when this episode premiered, I loved it. I still love this episode. I think it's one of the best ones. And I think, to me, feels far more like a finale. I guess it also makes sense, like, to an extent, as a premiere. But like I mentioned, like, this does have a sense of finality to the first few episodes of this show, of how, in such short time, how far they've come. So, with that being said, let's see what were some of the reactions. Let's go to AV Club because they love this show, right? This week it's Oliver Saba. I'm giving it a C. A step up from last week's C-. Wow. All right. This is how he begins the review. Why is S.H.I.E.L.D. so wildly incompetent? Except for the plucky agents on the bus, the rest of the spy organization has been portrayed as a group so obsessed with sticking to protocol that it rarely accomplishes whatever mission it's engaged in. Victoria Hand has replaced Nick Fury and Maria Hill as the commanding SHIELD officer on the show, and her main role is to make sure everyone follows strict rules so that the core cast can succeed by breaking them. I understand the narrative purpose for why the writers have moved in that direction, but it also makes me wonder how the hell S.H.I.E.L.D. could become so powerful if it's always fucking up. Maybe there's an unseen branch that is always making smart decisions off screen. If that's the case, can we follow them instead? Do I even care to just respond to this? What do you say to that?
I mean, I just don't understand how they feel like S.H.I.E.L.D's not like a...
Like it can't make mistakes.
Yeah, like a working organization. I don't know, seems fine to me.
I mean,
don't
it's talking about S.H.I.E.L.D. being incompetent. They brought about an alien invasion.
Yeah.
In the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
They made plenty of mistakes in the movies. I don't know what people think. They seem to have this idea in their head, like this really competent organization. Like, I don't know. How competent can you be when you're being a puppet of Hydra the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
No, but also, I mean, like, I don't see what they did there was incompetent exactly. You know? I mean, yeah, you can say, like, oh, the Hand was tricked by May and all that, but I mean, it was kind of good the way they went about it, how she tricked her and everything.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just don't see anything else. And they even say too, it's like we raided a whole bunch of places that were working on the Centipede project and all that. So like, even though the main mission was to save Coulson, they just still did a whole lot of good.
Yeah. The magical place is an improvement over the last couple episodes, but it still falls flat in a lot of ways. If I had to pick one word to describe this series, it's bland, which is mostly definitely not the description a spy series set in a superhero universe should garner. The relationships are bland, the dialogue is bland, the action scenes are bland, the special effects are bland. However much it cost for that one scene of the bus changing course, it could have been used better elsewhere. S.H.I.E.L.D. is currently the the saltine of action and adventure television, which is especially sad considering the show's potential. It's as if the writers are afraid of taking any chances whatsoever, which may very well be the case with a property of as micromanaged as this one. Beyond Coulson, the main cast of this show remains wholly uninteresting, with the show constantly putting plot over character, so that we still have very little idea of who these people are halfway through the first season. I take real issue with that comment right there. We've gone on literally a whole string of episodes where there was as much character, if not more character, than there was plot in them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Clark Gregg is a charismatic actor, but that's not the whole reason why Coulson is this show's strongest character. Unlike the other agents, he has a past life that the viewers have actually seen firsthand, so they're able to recognize that the character has gone through a significant change since his initial Iron Man appearance. We've learned about Fitz and Simmons' time together at school, May's life-changing massacre, Skye's cyber activist past, and Ward's time at the bottom of a well. But those are small pieces of a puzzle that have yet to make a strong portrait of those individual characters. The magical place picks up shortly after Agent Coulson's abduction last episode, with the rest of the team scrambling for any information that can lead to their leader. Victoria Hand has assumed control of the bus, and her first order of business is getting Skye out of there, because why is she even around in the first place? I may have applauded when Hand asked May if Skye had any place on the plane, and she responded with a curt no. But it's all a ploy to get Skye off the bus so that she could prove her worth to this series. Yeah, this person doesn't like Skye very much, it looks like. Skye ends up saving the day, but the writers, Paul Zebzitsky and Brent Fletcher take a dubious route to her win. She remains the show's most problematic character, but her role begins to make more sense this week as she breaks out on her own to do some investigating, which translates to her tracking down the main man who controls the flow of money and finding out where the funds land. Unfortunately, Skye can't access any electronics, so she decides to put her recent spy training to the test and lie her way to what she needs. In a hilarious bit of product placement gone wrong, Skye steals Lloyd Rathman's Escalade where he leaves it unattended at a valet parking and then crashes the car so that the OnStar can send a tow truck to take her back to Rathman's place. When we see Skye next, she's sending some paperwork for the tow truck driver at Rathman's because apparently neither OnStar nor the tow truck driver company have any interest in verifying the identity of the car's driver. I don't know if this is the case for ABC telling S.H.I.E.L.D. writers to spotlight the specific feature of a sponsor's product, but if it is, all it does is make me think that Cadillac and OnStar are going to screw me over if my car gets stolen. This is the point where I'm asking myself, what are we doing here in this review? What the hell was that? That was just a tangent. What was that paragraph right there? What did I read that paragraph for? Mm-hmm. What did any of us get out of that? Okay. I know this series is set in a fantastic world, but I'm not supposed to apply the same logic to it as I would a serious TV show. But I can't get over the ease with which Skye steals a man's car, then gains access to... Okay, we're still on this. Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to the next paragraph. While on the subject of lazy storytelling, why in the world does Agent Coulson have a giant pair of tweezers in his pocket when he's in...
He took those.
What are we doing here? What are we here talking about tweezers?
Well, no, he took those from the tray.
He did. He did take them, yeah. But my point is, like, why are we complaining about nitpicks? Why is that? This is literally an article of nitpicks.
Well, I can understand a little plot. Like, I pointed out, what was it? That was definitely ADR. The
right,
lady
the Roomba.
in the beginning. Like, it's fine to point those out.
Yeah.
You know, it's best for any writer to kind of, like, see those things and go, really get it done better. But the thing with the car, it's just, for one thing, it's just a little bit too much going into it. Like, a whole... this just makes me feel like I can't trust OnStar and all that. It's like, calm down. Like, it's... yeah, I can't really argue that his nitpick is wrong. But at the same time, it just didn't really seem like a big deal for me. At least that specific one.
No.
And then the whole tweezer thing, that's just wrong. So...
Another case in which they're just not paying attention. I feel like every week we catch them say something, and I'm like, but that's not what happened in the episode. Oh, man. Anyway. It's entirely possible he had an urgent eyebrow emergency he was going to deal with after... He's still on the tweezers. Did they not search his pockets? It's not like he's using a... Oh, my God, he's still... Okay. This half the paragraph is still on the tweezers. Why would Centipede leave them on a secret agent? Okay, that whole paragraph is about tweezers. I'm skipping it. This week, I finally understood what Skye's role is on this show, and it's more than being the person who hacks into an elevator system and looks pretty in leather. She serves as both a stand-in and fantasy for the audience. Skye is a civilian who suddenly finds herself in an extraordinary situation. I mean, did you barely put that together? I'm going to read that again. Like, she serves as both a stand-in and fantasy for the audience. She's the main character. We begin the show with her, and her finding this whole new world. It's like
she is a stand-in. Like that's
but that was set up from the first episode. Mm-hmm. How are you saying that you've just figured out what this is? Okay. But she's also a beautiful computer hacker who also happens to look really good in leather spy outfit. Fantasy. She's this show's version of Batman's Robin or Captain America's Bucky, a character the audience can initially identify with, but who becomes something more as the story continues. The moment that really works in Skye's plot this week is when she's confronted by two security guards and takes them out using her shield training, revealing that Chloe Bennett is more comfortable with the spy element of her character rather than the oppressed computer hacker side of Skye. It makes me wonder what this show would look like if Skye had started as a rookie shield agent who perhaps had some interaction with villainous organizations as a... Okay, David,
I mean, no, you don't start her off as a rookie agent at all because then she would know protocols, she would know certain code words or code names and everything. The whole point of her being outside is so that we know, is that we learn as she goes along what the world of S.H.I.E.L.D. is. So it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. The big event in the magical place is the reveal of part of what happened to Coulson after he was killed in the Avengers. And it's not very satisfying considering all the buildup. What we learned is that Coulson was just dead for seconds. Wasn't just dead for seconds like he's been led to believe, but he actually been dead for a few days. During which Nick Fury scoured heaven and earth for a way to bring his friend back. Coulson was brought back to a 1940s nuclear testing facility by Centipede so that they could unlock the mystery of his resurrection by showing him his true memories, putting him in a machine that strips away the facade of Tahiti to show him what really happened after his impalement. Coulson remembers being on a hospital bed, screaming, begging for death while a machine works on his exposed brain matter, which isn't much of an answer at all. After being rescued, Coulson confronts Dr. Straighton about what he's learned, which leads to more non-answers as the doctor vaguely talks about how much he regrets doing what he did. It's looking more and more like this is going to be a season-long plotline, but hopefully the writers will dole out information a little more regularly now that Coulson knows Tahiti was a lie. The last episode before hiatus hastily tied together the various plot threads of the first 9 chapters to create some semblance of an overarching narrative. But with the magical place, there's finally a sense that things are moving in a specific direction. Coulson knows that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been lying to him and is now eager for answers. The team has more information about Centipede, and Raina is in custody to give them even more. Skye is now firmly considered a part of the team rather than a liability, and it looks like she's going to be more active as a field agent in the future. The plot is moving forward, but it's still afraid of driving above the speed limit. There's very little sense of risk, likely due to a lack of strong character relationships to make the audience care about the people living through these high-stakes situations. With the Coulson reveal, the writers have the opportunity to explore the deeper character elements of the story, and hopefully they seize it in the weeks moving forward because this show won't succeed on plot alone. So interesting review there. A couple of things that I thought were eye-rolling, a lot of tangents that I don't quite see myself, but not for nothing, he did say in that closing paragraph that he thought there was some potential finally moving forward. Apparently to, his perspective there. So, anything on this review? Any other thoughts?
Nah. Just I like the episode. I really like those little details though of Skye figuring out how to avoid the bracelet. Because at first she just had it behind her back, thinking like, maybe it's just like this one specifically, or maybe it's like a distance thing. But that wasn't working, and then finally she used the golf club to hit the phone and everything, and then, so she slowly figured out what she could do to avoid the bracelet stuff. So that's cool.
Just gonna skim over Eric Goldman's review on IGN. He opens up his review with a similar complaint he's been on the last few weeks, which is fair to an extent. That the show is still not really divulging the real answers or the whole answers. Just saying that he feels like he wanted more out of the reveal of what happened to Coulson. I understand that. To an extent, you know. I get it, but I also feel it's like, I don't know. I don't necessarily feel the show is dragging it out to the extent that it's getting all this hate. That I don't get.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
that's where I come from.
I mean, to me though, too, it's like this is a really big reveal, you know?
Yes.
And so, and then also what they did reveal, the whole, you know, please let me die, please let me die. I think that's for us too to kind of go, do we want him to know more? Like,
yes.
If he was like this when he was revived, like, is he gonna be like that again? Are we like, what
really happened here?
Yeah, like it like makes you want to learn. You want to learn more, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this might affect them more so than we thought. Maybe we should leave it.
Yeah. Like if it's this bad already, and just imagine how much worse it could actually be when we find out the full extent of what actually went down. Goldman continues in his review. The rest of the episode was okay in that okay Shield way. Skye was kicked off the plane, but it turned out that May always believed in Skye, and she knew she'd come through. Let's see here. Skye posing as May was one of those comedic ideas that could work if we were more invested in these characters at this point. I don't know, Eric. I'm pretty invested. I thought that totally worked. Okay. The best part of the episode were the scenes with Coulson trapped at that old nuclear test site, which also makes for a suitably creepy setting, mannequins included. Raina getting Coulson to let down his guard and admit that yes, something was wrong was emotional and very well acted by Clark Gregg as he pondered that maybe his bosses didn't have his best interests in mind after all. It was an amazing scene. You and I were like really sucked into it when it was happening. Just like, wow, this is so good. Yes. Such a great scene. It all came together. The writing, the direction, the acting, the music. It's just like, that's, I think, truly one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first great sequences. And there'll be so many more of those as we continue down the line. Poe's line, S.H.I.E.L.D., the clairvoyant sees an end to all that. It's also very interesting, especially looking at the entire MCU. Once more, I forgot to touch on that, which is actually true. Why would the clairvoyant say that? The S.H.I.E.L.D., the clairvoyant sees an end to all of that, because the clairvoyant is Hydra, and their reveal is imminent. So, there's that. Once more, it's hard not to wonder about what will happen in Captain America. Yep. Yeah, because we know S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to be a big player in that movie. That's what he says in his review, basically. Some bullet points to close out. No, we still didn't learn who the clairvoyant is, though we did learn he can kill people over the phone, so there's that. Mike Peterson being alive is not a surprise. I thought it was. I didn't see it coming, but okay. So I'm glad it wasn't saved for too long, and his loss of leg in addition to of a bionic eye was pretty effective. Elizabeth Henstridge is turning into the show's real find. She was very funny, portraying Simmons' horrible attempts at lying, especially her delivery of, "Yes, it is that," when Skye asked if they were giving her a sandwich. And that was a nice, you've got to be kidding me, look from Ming-Na Wen later on as May watched Simmons. Anyway, or anyone else find it odd that Ward being shot in the last episode was completely ignored? I mean, we all figured he'd end up fine, but it seemed like a pretty big deal just to skip past. And then he updated that comment saying, "Okay, I know ignore was overstating, but I guess I find it odd that the last episode ended with the rest of the team not even having learned Ward was shot, and this episode began with him running around. I don't think it matters. I mean, he's fine. Okay, maybe he's probably wearing a bulletproof vest anyway. So it's like,
yeah. I mean,
okay,
it's not like it has to be a big thing. You know, it's like, oh wow, you got shot. You know, the fuck do you think we're doing here? You know, get used to it.
Yeah.
So you kind of just like move on from that kind of thing. So I don't know what they mean, but like, can we make it a big more deal? I mean, I can understand like maybe when he's fighting the centipede soldier, like it could have been more of a struggle. But other than that, like I don't know what else you mean that like make it more of a big deal.
See, I'm really happy that despite the overwhelming negative tone in some of these reviews, I really am happy that we're reading them because we get to. What I liked in reading this criticism is we get to okay, well, what is the criticism? And some of it can be valid, but we're finding anyway that a good number of this is kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's where your head is at? That's what you consider to be a flaw? That's what you consider to be part of what's keeping you from enjoying this as much as we are? Okay. I mean... I don't know. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I thought this was a damn good episode. Any last thoughts, David, before we close off this episode?
Nope.
All right. Well, as always, I want to thank all of you for watching and for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And please, 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 if you agreed or even in some ways, I don't know, better or worse, disagree with something that we said, please comment down below in the comments, and we will obviously do the best we can to respond to them as best we can. We appreciate the dialogue that we're having back and forth here, and we're having a great time doing these reactions. We'll be back next week for episode 12. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.